Hold on. How's that? That's a suitably weird angle. I'm watching the Olympics right now. Living the dream. Hank's late, not for the first time, but glad that you guys predicted. Potato. Oh, okay. You have a bone. That's fine. Hey, Potato, come. Potato, come. Oh, good boy. Come here. Come here. Say hi to the people. Come say hi to the people. Who's this? Who's this? Who's this? Is it Potato? Is it the world's sweetest dog? With lots of energy? He's off on a bone mission. I've had a day. Getting back into I never really stopped working full time during all the hullabaloo of my mid-level nervous breakdown, but I definitely worked less than I've been working this week, and so this week feels like I'm fully back in the rhythm of things, and that's great in a lot of ways. It's hard in some ways. It's a relief to feel better enough that I can do this, but also I am kind of tired, yeah, just trying to think about what I need to do to get my work life and my life in a more sustainable place, I guess. A place where I can keep my sanity pretty well. So this is a Dear John and Hank live stream. Hank's always late. That's the shtick. We are doing this live stream. Usually we do a live stream like this every few weeks for our patrons, and we're doing this live stream to promote our Patreon at patreon.com/DearHankandJohn. Congratulations to the Chinese women on their huge accomplishment of becoming gold medalists in synchronized swimming, and congrats to the American ladies on finishing second and getting that silver medal. I love the Olympics. I love the Olympics so much. So usually we do this right after the live stream, we do the live stream right before or after making the pod. And it's a ton of fun. It's the only time when Hank and I have a conversation that's really quite, I guess, casual, open with the community, because it's a relatively small group of people. So it's kind of a safe-ish space. And it's just great. So if you want to join that, you should. Oh, there's Hank Green.
Hello.
At patreon.com/DearHankandJohn. What caused you to be late today?
Well, I went to eat food, and then I was having lunch, and then Catherine came down, and we were talking about stuff.
Oh, nice.
And then I was like, I am late for a thing. And she was like, can you take the garbage out? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Mark was saying that my best lower third ever was when it just said fart, fart, fart. And I don't know if everybody knows that story, but it's one of my favorite things. One of the
tell me. I'm just watching focus throws.
Okay. I was in one of these when I was running VidCon. We'd have these multi-day long meetings where we would be in the meeting, and it would be like, what are we doing with this space? And it's just extremely boring. And we were in the midst of one of the most boring parts of these very boring meetings.
Yeah.
And someone was doing a presentation, but they had they had alerts that would pop up every time they got an email. Yeah. And they would show who sent the email and which are the subject line of the email. And so we were all a little bit too aware of this person's the emails that they were getting, which were all boring VidCon related emails. And I decided that I would send them an email with the subject line in all caps, fart, fart, fart.
I knew it was coming.
And everybody saw, and this person was just Carver giving this presentation, and everybody started laughing, and he had no idea why, and I loved it. It was the most harmless prank, and also I felt like there was a thing that was occurring that wasn't sad and boring.
I do love a harmless prank during an 8-hour meeting. We were at a 6-hour meeting last week, and I thought I might die. I will die. And that's what I kept thinking about during my 6-hour meeting. Hold on, Claire's calling. You cover for me.
Okay. I've had a number of meetings that I'm not a huge fan of lately, but we're doing it. there's a lot to do. There's always a lot to do, and meetings are important. They're just not how I envisioned my life going. So John and I just had our podcast. I told, I think, a fairly good joke. Is John straight gone? He's just not even in the room anymore. That's wild. Is that? I can't tell. That's what it looks like to me. But if anybody has any questions, please ask them. What a cool shirt! Someone says this is a new Sideshow shirt. It says photosynthesis is dope. It's not out yet. It is not yet released.
And I'm back.
I was just showing off my shirt.
Sorry, I had a call from Sarah, and it was the third time she'd called, but both other times were while we were recording the pod, and so I thought it might be important, but it wasn't. It wasn't important, but everything's important because it's your marriage.
That's right.
What is that a Complexly shirt? Photosynthesis is dope?
It's not out yet, but it will be.
Oh, it's great.
I'm sure that whatever this is happening with the audio will fix itself in a second. There, I did it. Did it do it? Do it. Fix yourself. Thank you.
Hank.
Yes.
How have you been feeling, man?
Oh, I don't know. I think I drank too much river water this weekend, and my stomach's upset.
Got some stomach upset, but like, I mean, I didn't just mean like, I meant more like, how are you feeling psychosocially, emotionally?
Oh God, I don't know. I had like a really good day where I was like, I can do all of this, but then like something went wrong.
Yeah.
And
usually only takes one thing going wrong for you to be like, maybe I can't do all of this at the same time.
Right. Yeah, and I was sort of like I was like, well, now I'm not gonna be able to sleep. I'm gonna be thinking about this, and I'm gonna wake up, and the first thing I'm gonna do is think about this, and there's a lot of moving parts, and success is not a thing that you get to sort of like get and keep, and like the sort of sustainability of a business isn't a thing you get to like get and keep.
Right.
Like it always has to be like it's very hard to not grow, because then, you know, costs kind of always go up a little bit. And so then you always have to be growing the business. And that can be really stressful, because it's not always clear exactly how that's going to happen. And then, you know, sometimes you would have to shrink, and that's really stressful. We're not in that situation right now, but like sometimes you are, and so I also, I don't know the extent to which, to be honest about this, it feels like we're like, you and I as like a internet people are kind of on a down cycle, both due to, you know, there being a lot of other folks who make good stuff, and also like our own lack of interest necessarily in
the TikTok star can only shine so bright for so long.
Right. Here's what it felt like to me. It felt like the TikTok star shined super bright, and then I got cancer, and we had like our biggest day of Vlogbrothers subscribers in the last 10 years. And
we don't talk enough about how you getting cancer was so good.
It was huge for the subs.
Yeah. As
I texted William Osmond, and I told him that I had cancer and I couldn't go to Open Sauce, and he said, easy 1 out of 10 video though. Which is very YouTuber morbid humor for you.
Yeah.
And I do feel like there is always sort of a natural, like, there's just a wave to it. You know, you see it with like big celebrities, it's much more visible, where like there's a time when Taylor Swift is on top of the world, and then there's a time when everybody kind of gathers together to hate her, and then she comes back bigger and stronger than ever. And right now we're kind of in a Taylor hate moment, it feels like.
Are we going through a hate moment? I thought we still love Taylor Swift.
I tweeted a nice thing about Taylor Swift on Threads the other day, and I got a bunch of hate from it.
What do we think about her? Private plane usage?
No, it's that she's doing all of these. My tweet was about how I felt like how Tortured Poets Department was kind of intentionally not a hit factory.
Yeah. It was an album for the fans.
Yeah, that was what the tweet was about. And that left space for a lot of interesting pop music this summer. And that like Charlie XCX,
they were all like, no, you don't understand. Taylor's been hogging the #1 spot, and she's been doing it intentionally. And she's been re-releasing all these different versions of Tortured Poet Society and yada, yada, yada. Got it. Yeah, I'm familiar with that criticism.
Yeah.
Listen, I think you're right that, like, I mean, Mr. Beast, we're seeing it with Mr. Beast. We're seeing, you see it. You're right. Nobody gets to fly too close to the sun for too long without their wings melting. It's just one of the rules.
Yeah, and
it happened to me, and when it happened to me, it was so unpleasant that I will do anything that I have to do, or almost anything I have to do, to not become famous again.
Yeah. Did you? I didn't look. Have you deleted that tweet you tweeted today?
Of course I did. Yeah, I deleted it like 2 minutes after.
The tweet being, it's terrible to write a book. Didn't actually see the tweet, but it's terrible to write a book that gets read by 35 million people because then 70 million people have opinions about it.
Yeah, it's true. My other books, the only people who have strong opinions about like Paper Towns are people who've read Paper Towns.
Yeah.
So like if they don't like Paper Towns, I get it. Like they read it and they decided they didn't like it. I kind of understand that. I guess there's a lot of people who have opinions about Paper Towns who haven't read Paper Towns, now that I think about it, actually. But
Paper Towns in particular, because it like went a little bit, like it had a little like discourse around it. And so people, the only thing they know about it, they know from that discourse.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you have
never had discourse.
About the discourse.
I never had discourse around my books, which
no, you've never been the subject of major discourse, which I think is a great credit to your ability to both have a large audience and sort of fly under the discourse radar. I've never quite had that gift.
Well, yeah, I mean, you also I think you both are a little bit more sensitive to hate, and
definitely true.
Have been and are more famous than me.
Well, I know now. I don't know that that's true, but I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's more. You have more people who know your name but don't know who you are.
Totally, that's true. But I think that me being more sensitive to hate is the bigger thing. And I think the reason I've been more sensitive to hate is because I've always sort of believed that I'm worthless, and therefore hate penetrates differently because it confirms for me what I already know to be true about myself, which is that I am not a person of value.
Right. This is a great point. It's not great to have that as sort of like a thing that's always speaking inside of you when you also have it being spoken a lot outside of you. Someone in the chat reminds me that my book was the subject of boobs getting slammed indoors discourse.
Yeah.
Which I'm happy. I'm happy to have that be my discourse.
And you dealt with it pretty well in the scheme of things.
It was also a very small discourse.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how to slam a boob in a door. I just know that it's possible because people with boobs tweet about it, just like the main character of my book did.
Yeah. I'll say the book probably would have been stronger without that particular line, but that's true.
I definitely wouldn't have it in there if I had it to do over again. She would have done some other stupid thing.
Well, I mean, I guess the issue is that like it's not mission critical to the novel.
No, it performed a job that could have been performed by a number of other things.
Yeah. So that's really, anytime that's what sticks out for me is when like you're like, oh man, I wish that I'd done that differently, precisely because it isn't that important. With things that are really important in a story, if I wish I did them differently, like, you know, like the plot of Looking for Alaska hinges on a payphone, like that, you know, is going to read like historical fiction for another 10 years, and then it's going to read like what? And so like it may limit the book's ability to reach readers in the distant future, but like I can't fix it because the whole plot hinges on it.
Yeah. I mean, my book definitely takes place at a moment.
Yeah. Although, interestingly, your book feels just as relevant, if not more relevant, now as it did, you know, when it was published.
There are pieces of it I think that would read like it took place 4 to 6 years ago, and I think, but the themes remain very relevant. I think I remember when I got my first like feedback on it, somebody was like, well, are you sure you want to use YouTube as like a platform that April uses and not like sort of create a fictional version just in case like YouTube isn't a big deal you know, in a couple of years when the book comes out. And I was like, oh, if YouTube isn't a big deal when the book comes out, then none of this matters.
Right. Then the book itself doesn't matter that nearly as much as I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. I, as I said in my video last week, am convinced that YouTube isn't in its first half.
No, I don't think so either. And I think it's probably the only social platform that isn't in its
I can feel some real sort of crumbliness to Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. I think Instagram might have more solidity, but I feel some real crumbles when it comes, especially to Twitter and TikTok. It's just does not feel like solid ground.
No,
and it feels like Tumblr-y.
It's well, first off, Tumblr's doing great. I don't know why you're not.
Yeah, well, look, I'm not saying that Tumblr isn't doing great. I'm saying that it's a heck of a lot smaller than it once was.
I just find it very, very funny that I'm back on Tumblr. Like, I find
very weird. When I first got back on Tumblr briefly, like a couple of years ago, you were like, Hank, I can't believe you're betraying me in this way.
I did feel a little betrayed. I'm not ill, but there's something in the back of my throat, so maybe I am ill.
Yeah,
or
maybe it's a little bat covered in leeches.
Oh God, that's a reference to the pod that we recorded today, where Hank told me that sometimes leeches bite bats, and then I was forced to imagine a bat with leeches, like the worst of the worst. It's like it's like a spider riding a snake. Yeah,
you didn't know about the spider snake, John? It's not just one spider. It helps them. They use them as a lubricant for their burrows. They just collect millions of spiders and cover their scales with them.
Tumblr is fascinating to me because it is kind of a ghost town. It's a lot of people who've been on Tumblr for 15 years, and then some people who are sort of Tumblr people who left other social media spaces because they want the sort of less sophisticated algorithms of Tumblr, which aren't less sophisticated because Tumblr wants them to be less sophisticated. They just don't have the expertise to make it good.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we're at a very interesting moment for the internet. It feels I think nobody knows what's going on, but it feels like a combination of, Twitter's Xification and the TikTok maybe getting banned and AI shutting down parts of the open web because these companies don't want AI companies to be able to scrape their content and use it for free and create billion-dollar companies out of it. And that, like, a lot of this stuff is kind of shutting down and fracturing. And what I desperately want is for these platforms to not be replaced.
Yeah.
Like I
just, but as long as they're as addictive as they are, they're going to be replaced.
Right. And they're in a arms race to be more addictive than each other.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like TikTok, the reason TikTok got popular is because it was more addictive than any of the other platforms.
Yeah. It was better at holding your attention. It felt more like almost like you were like a dolphin riding through the waves.
Yeah.
The video I'm making next week, which right now, I'm sure I'll change the title, but right now it's called Potato. Be quiet, buddy. Everything's good, man. What's it called? Potato. Seriously, this is embarrassing. Okay. We have people watching. Okay. And you're supposed to be a well-behaved puppy. It's called Catchy Title, Compelling Thumbnail. And
I like it.
And it's about
are you going to do this in the thumbnail?
No, I was going to have the thumbnail be just a black screen. As you know, Hank, I just hate thumbnails. I just find them I feel bad saying this, but I find the thumbnail kind of inherently, I don't want to say beneath me.
I feel like Nerdfighteria when I make a thumbnail and it's obvious that I made it.
Yeah, Nerdfighteria is always like, nah.
They're like, no, that's not what we're doing here.
No thanks.
Yeah.
No thanks.
But I can totally Photoshop my face onto a coconut and that's okay.
Yeah, I like what Kelly says. The thumbnail is the first lie, right? Like it's just inherently, and there's quotes around that as if it's somebody else said it, but it's a very beautiful quote, whoever said it.
Yeah.
The thumbnail is the first lie. I like that. But yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with the thumbnail. But anyway, the video is about how during the month that I was mostly away from algorithms, I was really struck by the fact that my real life also contains all these randomized rewards and all these times when real life decides how I feel and what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
It's just that the internet really is sort of hijacking or exploiting that biology in order to turn my attention into their capital.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I was just talking about this with someone that there's also like like in the entire media ecosystem, there's a need for them to make you feel like you need them. And the way that you make someone feel like you need them is by, in the news media especially, is by making everyone always feel like the world is constantly being reshaped. And so you constantly need the media. Like if the world is different today than it was yesterday, then you need to watch the news. But if the world is the same as it was yesterday, you don't need to watch the news.
Yeah.
And so there's an incentive to make you think that every day the world is changing in very large ways. Which
yeah, and an incentive to think just to put it in a Vlogbrothers perspective, we need to incentivize viewers to think like, hey, I know that you've seen 1,200 of these. I know that you've seen this every Tuesday and Friday for 18 years, but you still need to see it this Tuesday. And that is very hard, and I feel conflicted about it. Like you were talking earlier about the challenges, and they are intense challenges of ultimately, like we don't run these companies, but we still, the two companies we own employ over 150 people. That's just an amount of stress that is intense, and like might not be intense for other people, but it's intense for us. But then there's the real part of our job. Like that's not even our job really. Our job is Nerdfighteria. Our job is making cool stuff with the community, collaborating together, you and I, in ways that don't involve any, if not, or at least not the vast majority of those directly, those other folks. And so like, that's the job. And that's what I kept thinking about during my break is like, ultimately the job I have is the job that I want, which is being part of Nerdfighteria and doing cool stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
The other jobs I have are not as much jobs that I'm good at, and not as much jobs that call to me either.
Yeah.
I do like writing.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've been trying to figure out, I don't know what my job is, and I can't even figure out a job description for myself at Complexly right now. But there's a part of there's a story I heard recently about Elton John was like at a shoe shop or something in Italy, and somebody was like asked him what he did for a living, and he was like, I'm a musician, and they're like, oh, what kind of music do you make? And he was like, not really a musician. I'm just Elton John. Like that's who I am for a living.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of like what a like kind of wonderful, kind of terrible, also very kind of selfish job to like want to have is to just like, and I feel like that's a lot of what the people imagine the job of being an influencer is that you just get to be yourself and get paid for it.
Right.
And like, that's a big part of it. It's not the whole part of it. But I don't know how I feel about wanting that job.
Yeah. I'm actually pretty distressed by that job on some level, right? Which is that for me, there's something distressing about turning myself into a capitalized resource.
Yeah.
And like it's like the purest form of capitalism where your actual self becomes monetized.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's what it feels like. The entire influencer economy
monetized is the cleanest thing in the world in terms of, well, you have value in your life or you don't, right? Like if you're good at monetizing yourself is valuable. If you're bad at monetizing yourself is not valuable. And like the value of you as a person and as a self is easily calculated.
Right. And that's what I want. Like, I love the ease of the calculation. You know, I want
Right.
someone to tell me the, like, Kamala Harris's job approval rating. I want somebody to tell me, I want the number. I want that. I like, how likely is it that like, you know, like a score. Like, that's why scores exist.
And I want to get an A. I want to get an A in being an internet person, because
I want to get an A in being me. And the only way I can know if I'm getting an A in being me is if people are saying, yes, A.
Right. And I think what I'm starting to learn is that when I put a lot, when I buy into that narrative, it's actually quite dangerous for me. I don't know that it's dangerous for everybody. I'm not trying to make like some
right,
you know, monolithic case about, but when I buy into it, it's dangerous for me, because then it conflates my worth as a person with my worth as an internet commodity.
Yeah, well, also with what some people are saying about you. Like, there's like one guy who really didn't like my comedy special.
Yeah.
And of course I know who he is now.
Yeah, you know everything about it.
Yeah, because if you're gonna be public, I'm like, yep, I've seen you popping back up and not liking it in public as much as you can. And like, it's why, like, I don't know, like, I'm fairly good at not weighting that super heavily, but I definitely weight it more heavily than the people who liked it.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah, my therapist always says it's 5 to 1, that like 5 positive comments equals 1 negative one. But for me,
that's not going to be the same for every person.
No, for me, it's like 500 to 1.
Well, and also because you get 500, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
which is
incredible. And like, that's the other thing is like, the other thing that I've had to realize is that me, like, I've always seen like my thing about being worthless and my work not being very important, and it not really mattering in the lives of the people who they like, if somebody comes up to me, traditionally, if somebody comes up to me and says like, hey, your book changed my life, the first thing I say is, no, you changed your own life. I'm really glad that the book was there for you at that time, but like, that book didn't do the work. And I mean, that's a little rude of me, actually, to be so presumptuous. I don't know if the book changed their life. It could have. Like, I've read books that changed my life. It absolutely is possible that a book changes your life. And so one of the things I've had to reckon with is that when I'm denying the value of my life, I'm also like denying what the people, both like the people I love, the people who are close to me, my family, my close friends, like what they say and what they feel. And I'm also denying like what other people are saying and feeling, and like in a way that's dismissive, in a way that's like not kind or generous. And like, that's not the person I want to be either. Like, I don't want to be a prideful person, obviously, but I do want to take people seriously when they tell me what is true to them. So it's complicated, man. KS says, just say thank you. I do say thank you. But thank you is better than you changed your own life, for sure. Thank you in general solves 99% of problems.
Yeah. I mean, when people say you're the only reason I got through anatomy and physiology, I do say you probably also had something to do with it. I bet there are people who had my videos and didn't get through anatomy and physiology.
Yep.
But I'm sure that they know that. You know, I'm not telling them something they don't know. Right. I have a couple of questions from our patrons. There's
great.
Speaking of books, Molly wants to know what you've been reading lately.
I'm still reading mostly about tuberculosis because I'm in the throes of the last edit on this book. But gosh, what else have I been reading? Oh, I've been reading The Constant Gardener by John Le Carré, which is about tuberculosis, but is a novel and is a spy novel. It's very good. What about you? What are you reading?
I'm reading like 3 books right now. I'm reading Invisible Rulers by Renee DiResta, which is like a book about how
that's a hardcore Hank Green book.
Yeah, how people on the internet define reality for other people on the internet.
Yeah.
So it's about like anti-vax conspiracy theories and the Stop the Steal campaign and like all of the things that, but bespoke realities is the takeaway term from the book.
Great phrase.
Yeah.
Great phrase.
And I'm reading the like third, I think, Stormlight Archive book by Brandon Sanderson.
Nice.
They're very long. So I've been reading that for like 4 months, and I'm like a third of the way through it, maybe. I'm also reading your tuberculosis book right now.
Oh yeah, I'm starting to read your book as well.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Well, thanks for reading my tuberculosis book. I hope you like it.
I like it. I like it. It's very, I don't know, like it's, I mean, as a book would do, it gets deeper into tuberculosis, but also into your relationship with it and your experiences with folks in Sierra Leone, and that I hadn't understood as much as I do now. It's always so interesting and cool to be able to be. I love being a beta reader generally. Like it's like a cool thing to get invited to be able to do. But the just I get to be an early reader. It just feels like it feels very special to me. I take it to be an early reader of a John Green book, but I guess that makes sense that happens to me. Jen wants to know, how do you decide where to live?
Oh gosh, I mean, I decided where to live. I'm the trailing spouse, so I decided where to live based on where my wife got a job.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, but you decided not to leave.
Decided not to leave because of the people and because it's affordable, and it's a regular place to live where people have regular jobs, and most of the other places I lived were not regular places to live where people had regular jobs. And I found it helpful to be friends with people who are not, living a life that's similar to mine professionally.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel like I've ever made a decision to move to a place. I've only lived in 2 places except for college.
Right.
And then I'm kind of a coaster. I just sort of like go with what I've got.
Yeah.
But like I have decided many times not to leave Missoula. And I think that it's just like the vibe is, though the weather is terrible.
Weather's bad in Missoula. You got like fire season, you got cold season, you got hot season. You don't have nice season. Here in Indianapolis, we've got a couple nice seasons, but mostly I just really like my friends here, and I really like my life here. I love the White River. I love writing about Indianapolis. So, it's a place where I feel like I can make a difference too. Like when we lived in New York, Sarah and I never said like, man, who's really helping out, contributing to the culture here? Sarah and John Green. Potato.
My God.
But in Indianapolis, I feel like we can contribute to the culture in an important.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely the case in Missoula. It's very cool to have been at least a little part of the comedy scene here. There's so much going on there, and like, people will come up to see me and who wouldn't normally go out to see a comedy show, but then they find out about other comedians at the show. Yeah, is great for the town. Our dad. Yeah, when he was deciding where to move, when they were going to leave Florida, he was he's the one to answer this question, because he actually did make this decision, and he made a spreadsheet and he created scores based on different things, and they included like how many people voted for like Barack Obama versus didn't do that, and it was a huge spreadsheet, and there was he scored all of these different things, and then he chose Asheville, North Carolina to move to.
Although now he lives in Indianapolis, so you never know. Turns out there's a place even better than Asheville, North Carolina.
So I think there's like you can't. I think an underrated way, honestly, is price. I feel this way about schools too. Yeah, where I'm like, probably one of the things to look at that most people don't look at when they're looking at these big books of like which school is the best school is to just say like, okay, but like, how am I going to get out of this with less debt? Yeah. And these days, especially, there's a lot of places you can live where just ever owning a house is like entirely inaccessible. And there's a lot of places to live where that isn't the case. Yeah. No, there's a lot of affordable housing in Indianapolis if that's of interest to you. Hank, I got to go because my family just got home. Great.
But if you enjoyed this conversation and you'd like more like it, consider becoming a patron of our podcast at patreon.com/DearHankandJohn.
Oh, is this one public?
Yeah. This has been public the whole time. That's why there's
this one's been public. That's why there's so much chat action going on.
This
chat is out of hand.
Hank had no idea he was not having a quiet conversation within Nerdfighteria.
I went deep.
Dog. Look at this happy dog.
If you become a patron, it's like this, except maybe even a little bit more open.
Yeah, because I knew that I was talking to a lot of people. Look at this puppy. Look at the puppy.
Yeah, look at the puppy.
Look at the puppy. All right, y'all are the best. DFTBA.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Oh, I should probably